Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Inside Signature, March's Inside Signature. If you don't know who I am, that's perfectly all right. My name is Matt Strout. I am the Education Programs Manager here at Signature Theater, and the other half of the Education Department with David Zobel, who is, we typically alternate these, co-hosting these events. He is currently out on paternity leave, well-deserved paternity leave for his third baby. They're outnumbered now, but he will be back in due course for events such as this. We've got folks here live at Signature Theater, which is great. I'm happy to be back in the building with folks, and we've got some friends joining us remotely as well, which is amazing. Before I introduce our lovely guest for this afternoon, I just want to give you a little lay of the land if this is your first Inside Signature, which for some it may be, for some digitally it probably definitely is. This is we like to keep things relatively casual here, professional but casual. This is meant as a fun conversation. I'm not trying to trick anyone wherever interviewing here or catch them in the act with some hot gossip. But I have more than enough questions to keep this conversation productive and fun, but would also love, if there are any questions from the audience or our digital audience, feel free to throw your hand up and we'll try and call on you for your question in due time. If you've attended other discussion community-based events like this before, typically questions prompt discussions, right, and thoughtful discourse as opposed to just blunt statements about whether you liked something, didn't, and what have you. Questions promote conversation. And like I said, those of you in person, feel free to throw questions out. Those of you digitally, my friend James will help pass those questions along to make sure we answer those as well. Before, one last plug. We've got another Inside Signature coming up next week with Allie Ewalt from She Loves Me, which is going into, which is in previews currently, which is great. And we have Daphnes Dive running till the 20th of March, which we're going to be talking a little bit about today. So if you haven't checked that out already, make sure you do. But without further ado, I'd like to introduce Rayanne Gonzales, the titular Daphne and Daphnes Dive. Let's give her a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Good afternoon. And hello out there.
Thanks for sitting down with me and for all of us today, Rayanne.
A pleasure.
How are you doing today?
Oh, goodness. It's already been quite a day, but that's pretty typical for a mom and working actress mom. So there's a bit of juggling, yep. But the extra half hour with an 8 p.m. show feels like a luxury. So I'm glad that I could be here this afternoon.
Yeah, we are lucky and very, very happy to have you because your schedule is no doubt demanding, to say the least. Show schedule is demanding enough. Add children and additional family members on top of that. Yep. That complicates things. If you don't mind me asking, how old is your child?
14.
14. That is a special age, to say the least.
It is. And you know what? I'm just grateful for each day, grateful to be a mom. And certainly, each of us has a unique challenge, whether we're parents or carers of younger people. But it's the greatest joy of my life.
We'll come back to that in a bit. That prompts some interesting questions in my head.
All right.
We'll start relatively simply here.
Yes.
What's your background? Where are you physically coming from? Where did you grow up?
Virginia. Yes, Prince William County, actually, to be more specific. Born in Fairfax. Spent my first 3 years in Falls Church in the Culmore area. And we moved to Dale City when I was about 3 years old. And educated in the county in Catholic schools and public schools. And so my Northern Virginia, born and bred, basically, by way of the Caribbean. My mother and my father and my brother were born in Trinidad and Tobago in the West Indies and came to the United States. My mom came first as the trailblazing maverick that she is in 1967. And my dad and my brother followed shortly thereafter to the Falls Church area. And settled here, and we have made our life here, and that opened the door for more family to come from Trinidad, and it has been quite the immigrant story of success and hills and valleys and all of those things, but we're certainly glad to be well presently, and that we've made this our home fully.
I was about to say, the DMV area is very lucky to have you, as well as your extended family, who I'm sure is equally lovely. What is your, you mentioned Catholic school and a bit of your educational upbringing.
Yes.
Connected to that, when did the performance bug bite you, per se? Early in life, late in life? Is there a particular moment? Or?
The family lore is that my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, when I was quite young, I was a baby, I believe, or early toddler, I used to scream a lot, just for the sake of screaming. And she said, she's going to be a singer. And so that might have planted the seed there, or at least the recognition of something. And then in elementary school, I mean, as you do when, you are playing games as kids, you have screaming contests. And I managed to out-scream everyone. So there was that. And I actually had the foundation of the church and singing in church, which led me to my first voice teacher, my first vocal lessons. I grew up singing in the folk group, children's choir at church, and that was really a significant part of my foundation. And the recognition of that, I remember very distinctly, the memories never left me, of being in the 7th grade, and we were preparing the mass, the ceremony for the 8th grade graduation. And there was a call from the teacher for a soloist. And my classmates sitting next to me on either side of me are nudging me, go, go, go. And I got up and I was saying what was asked, and the teacher sort of went, oh. And I guess that was kind of like I guess I'm doing something, or I'm making some sort of joyful noise. and that was that particular moment for me. Always loving music, listening to the radio, the reservoir of song lyrics, from the 80s and beyond. I don't know. It's just one of those things that it keeps it interesting.
I bet. There's a lot rattling around in all of our brains.
I can always make a reference to some song lyric.
That is not a bad skill to have or trivia to have to just pull out at a moment's notice.
Sure.
Amazing. After that discovery, so to speak, in the 7th grade, did you then, more with less prodding from friends, pursue performance opportunities at school and the like, either in high school or collegiate settings and the like?
I did. It was primarily at school. I entered high school, Garfield High School in Woodbridge, Virginia, and I auditioned for the spring musical as a freshman, Pirates and Penzance. And I was cast as Ruth. And certainly being a freshman cast in the spring musical, I guess, was significant enough. But it was the direction, truly, in the choral program run by Deborah Proctor, now well retired and much beloved, and I'm so glad that she's still with us, really was a guiding force in my musical education broadly. So between that and church, where I was now taking voice lessons, I was now leading song in the mass, in services. So I was really sort of honing all of that. Did I think of it as work? Did I think of it as training? No, I just loved it. I just loved it. It was and is such a significant part of my life. The ability of music to change my mood, it's hard to describe, because I can be, we all can really have some days sometimes. And you just kind of turn on the radio and something will be there, and I'm just humming along, and maybe I'm not. Maybe it's just sort of appreciating what the lyric is or the melody is of a song that maybe I've heard hundreds of times, but just something that day. That's the beauty of music for me.
Yeah, the joy or variety of emotions that any song, like you said, whether you've listen to it 1,000 times on the radio. It's like, oh, I hadn't paid attention to just
Exactly.
the drum track in the background.
Right. Or I didn't know that was the lyric. Oops. And so I was involved in show choir in high school. Was fortunate enough to attend the Virginia Governor's School for the Arts the summer between my 10th and 11th grade years, which was absolutely pivotal. I studied with Eddie Pierce Young, my first professional opera singer teacher, and she opened up a window that I didn't otherwise know existed, and opera and classical voice. Though I had begun to learn some of the 24 Italian songs, which if you're a vocal person is kind of like the bread and butter. It's the kind of the 4 food groups that singers start out with a classical foundation. But Eddie Pierce Young opened up this world to me, and I was singing Mozart duets from Marriage of Figaro, and we were singing all kinds of musical theater tunes and Hebrew songs, and all of a sudden I went, wait a second, I think this is a path. I think it is. Yeah, I think this is what I want. And it fully informed kind of the rest of my high school years in terms of where I wanted to go, and applying for colleges for music. Also with the part of me which I think informs singing, particularly as a classical singer, languages and my interest in languages. And I thought, well, maybe if this doesn't work out, maybe there's a sideline in the State Department. Maybe that's what my life would be like. But no, I clearly chose the artistic path, and that is what led me to college, to Boston University.
Very, very nice. There's 1 or 2 people on staff here that I actually believe went to BU. That's an excellent school. Excellent school.
Yes.
And you studied vocal performance there, or opera specifically?
Actually, it's kind of a protracted track, but I started out in a core humanities program, and the building was literally right next to the School for the Arts, and it was a 2-year program in which you then went on to specialize in whatever other school you wanted to at the university. And I would walk by the School for the Arts every day and just pining and longing, and little did I realize, using a phrase from Daphnes Dive, a bureaucratic mix-up, I had actually been accepted into the School of Music. But I didn't know that. And so there was a decision to make in a very short period of time. And I thought, well, I think I'm going to opt for safety right now and see what happens. Well, it took about a year. I said, no, actually, I need to be in the music school. So I reapplied and was accepted. And it was, again, as I recall this now, just sort of on the spot, remembering the teachers, remembering my fellow students, my colleagues, the path that we were on. My voice teacher in undergrad, Robert Gardside, God rest his soul, was a great interpreter of French song. And so that was the thing. That was the stuff that you worked on. And he was a maverick of sorts in the music department. And he was the one that actually taught singing for actors in the theater department, because music was music and theater was theater, and there weren't always sort of crossovers.
At the program I was in as well, they were very clearly set.
Yes, exactly, very, very delineated. But what it gave me, the foundation of singing, is still with me today, with what he gave to me, and for that I'm forever grateful, because the voice, just these these 2 chords, can go through a lot, and knowing how to take care of them, just like every other muscle in the body, it takes time, takes practice, takes trial, and a whole lot of error. But hopefully we're learning from those mistakes. But it has given me, really, I'm grateful that the versatility that I have found, that I've needed to display on stage, the foundation of my undergrad years informs that.
It sounds like you had a great educational upbringing as far as your collegiate experience goes. And
I like to think so.
Clearly, take care of your instrument, because all performers, like, this is the moneymaker, everyone, this thing we're walking around in or speak with. And if you don't take care of that, you're ultimately doing yourself a disservice in terms of the quality of the work that you can produce, or just being able to produce anything at all.
Yeah,
So,
which is informed by quality of life.
totally,
Yep.
100%. We're going to bounce around a little bit. And again, if anybody has any questions, feel free to throw a hand up.
Please.
But curious to shift gears, talking a little bit more about Daphnes, because that's the main focus of our chat today. Let's imagine, if you will, we're on an elevator. Can you give me a little elevator pitch in terms of just a brief synopsis? Everyone here individually may not have seen the show yet.
Gotcha.
But in terms of a few sentences, what would you describe the story of Daphnes Dive as?
Absolutely. Daphnes Dive, a slice of life, or slices of life, over virtually 20-year span of time, of life in this particular bar in North Philly. There are characters, there are stories, there's drama, there's a lot of laughter, and the audience just has a peek into life being lived.
Amazing. Thank you. Yeah, if folks have not seen it yet, I highly recommend it. Again, closes in only a few weeks. So catch it if you haven't already. You mentioned this already, and I'd be curious to hear you talk more about it. Again, the show itself covers a span of years, we will say.
Yes.
How do you can speak from your personal experience, or obviously you were in the rehearsal room for the whole process, but how do you, let me get my thoughts together.
Yes.
How do you're playing the same character over the course of the entire show, how do you create a history over the course of X number of years, as opposed to, a sitting room drama that takes place one evening over the course of one dinner, as opposed to even a show that takes place over a year? I'm different in right after the holiday season as opposed to the middle of September. How do you do that as an actor and as a performer? And
there is the advantage of a costume change. And in the case of Daphnes, it's simply just a piece of clothing. There's the base of what I'm wearing, but I might change the shirt. That marks for me the passage of time. It also marks for me kind of what the mood or the essence of that scene that I'm just about to go into. It informs that. It's symbolic in many ways, but also the way that my mind works is I kind of make up all the compartments. It is a subtle emotional shift. It is a recognition of how I interact with my castmates, with the other characters, differently because of what time has passed. And my thoughts about that, it's subtle. I wish that I could articulate more of it, but there is the greatest shift for me in terms of age, I find in the transition from 4 to 5. There are 5 scenes. And again, it's not even a choice. Sometimes it just sort of happens, and I feel like I may be walking or ambling just a little bit differently because this is now kind of 20 years into it. I'm not throwing on any gray hair that I don't already have, but there are subtle shifts that I hope that the audience reads, that the weight of life, the passing of the seasons, also comes through even vocally. There might be a subtle shift. There might be a little bit more weight. I know that I make a transition from sort of that 20-year span and make a jump back, and I have made a choice to make that younger because I would have sounded slightly younger at that time.
100%. For those of you that haven't seen the show yet, the transitions are something to behold. It's fascinating when there's no spoken dialogue on stage, but there's plenty happening as we see these shifts in time. In the rehearsal process, or for you, talking about these 4 shifts, I guess, between 5 scenes. Do you find those helpful in terms of physical motions and things you are during those transitions, aside from, I have a top that is more befitting of a person of X age?
Yes. Yeah, there's prop changes. There is just even in those transitions, even if we're not speaking to each other, there's that subtle kind of shift in the interaction. If I might place my hand on Ray's shoulder, and what I say to him, quietly in that moment, coming out of where we've been, because it's an emotional shift that can be very quick internally, that is denoting sometimes 4 to 5 years of time passing that the audience isn't necessarily informed of. You're getting a glimpse of it at that. And the filling in, or at least the informing, will be there. You'll see what, if not particular moments that have happened, maybe the aftermath of something that happened.
In rehearsals, obviously, putting together any piece of theater, whether it's a musical, a concert, a play, you're working really fast and really hard, right? 2 to 3 weeks. If it's a concert, even less time. If it's opera,
Sure.
Oh boy, it's a whole other thing.
Yes.
But throughout rehearsal, were you able to work with your fellow performers in terms of talking about these in-between spaces, in terms of like, how did Matt and Rayanne's relationship evolve over this 2-year jump, as opposed to like, oh, I'm 22 now. That's all we need.
Yeah, there are things that, yes, we definitely discovered. The value of what actors call table work, which is, having read the script, we are breaking down scene by scene, conversations, questions of ourselves as the character, questions that we'll ask other characters. Now, an actor doesn't always have to reveal the motivation, but it does give a sense of what a particular choice, physical, vocal, or otherwise, that an actor is going to make, that we can then know to engage or how to engage. And that conversation is still even happening now. Genuinely, that's the beauty of this piece. Daphnes Dive is so rich in its emotional depth that, yeah, literally, I had a conversation with our stage manager, Madison Barr, the other day, and we must have talked for at least 45 minutes just on, but it could be this, and this could actually, well, that, might mean this instead. And we could go on and on and on. And that's the challenge of my job as an actor, to find something different every night. And that's going to be how I'm walking in the door because of whatever happened outside the stage door, and then what I bring to the stage and the energy of everybody else on that stage at that moment, whether all pistons are firing and all the lines are coming, or maybe they're not. Maybe they're not. I mean, that's the spirit and the energy of live performance. But whew, I do my level best to meet the mark.
I'd say you certainly did, at least the evening I saw the show. So
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I don't doubt that is not often the case. Any questions from Judith,
yes.
right here?
First, a comment. I love the songs that you and the actress who plays your daughter sang in the signature.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yes,
I'm just going to repeat that question real quick for our friends that are joining us digitally.
Mm-hmm.
One of our friends here in person was curious if Rayanne could speak a little bit more about the director, Paige.
Yes. Paige Hernandez, this was my first opportunity working with Paige. Our paths have crossed in the past, but to be in the room with her, an absolute treasure and joy. The confidence, the trust, the discipline that she sets forth, that she expects, is paired with an absolute voluminous compassion, recognition, honesty, and love in everything she says and does. And as an actor, feeling completely supported, having the strength of a foundation of a director that simply believes in you. My gosh, I mean, I think I'm tearing up just talking about it. But literally, it is an actor's dream to be guided, to be supported, to be directed by someone with the capacity and the clarity of vision in which a subtle move of a prop or a chair or where you move across the room has monumental impact on the storytelling. And the gift to be able to see that big picture and then be able to, in the positive sense of the word, micromanage how that big picture gets made is something I will never forget. And I will seize every opportunity to work with Paige if given.
Yeah. She's an amazing collaborator in person, and you've been lucky enough to get to spend much more time than I have with Paige, but even the times we've passed each other in the halls, she is truly a special one.
Yes.
And,
Amen.
The whole team is lucky to have her as a signature.
Yes.
I believe we had another question from one of our friends coming to us digitally.
Oh, terrific. Yes.
We got a question in terms of if the actors on the team had any part in developing the scenic elements, costumes, props, and the like. Can you speak to that, Rayanne?
Yes, our beautiful set designed by Megan Raham. Actually, we were invited, we were encouraged to bring pieces to the set, to give it to personalize it in many ways with the things that we felt represented us. And that was a lot of family mementos. That's photos. That's little tchotchkes from Puerto Rico. There are watercolors of a Puerto Rican artist that I had the opportunity to meet well over 10 years ago, and I thought, this is exactly what should be in this bar. So I was really glad to have that be a part of the set. But yeah, it lends an authenticity to the bar. From an audience standpoint, you're walking in going, yeah, this looks like a dive. But if you were able to kind of zero in and magnify on something, you'd find the little quirky pieces, the family photographs, the plush Chewbacca that's sitting on a shelf. And what are some of the other things? We've got our pennant of Puerto Rico and all kinds of just other colorful things. And then kind of like the prop stuff for business, like bills and paper money for props. And what are some of the other things? Our plastic limes.
Yeah, but like you were saying, just to reiterate that, but I mean, it is a bar, and specifically a dive, as it is described in the title of the piece. But a dive is much more evocative of many of us probably here digitally have been in bars or restaurants of that sort that are just oozing with personality, as opposed to, not that I dislike an Applebee's or an Outback, but that is a very safe, like you walk into one, you've probably walked into all of them, as opposed to you walk into the Arc Theater in Daphne's and you're just like, oh, I know exactly what type of people inhabit this space, which is exciting. And you want to get to know those people, you want to get to know the space, you understand why people keep coming back to this space, even if it is a fictionalized space that is existing within the Signature Theater walls at the moment.
And then having the front row literally at the lip of the space, so it's as immersive as you can get, short of my taking your order and pouring you a beer. So
Totally. Was there another question out here? Yes, you, sir.
Yes. Yes. That's right. Yes, that's right. That's right. And there is an original Basquiat on our set from Paige's own art collection.
Amazing.
Yes, yes.
Holding on to a Basquiat. Okay, cool.
Right.
Give me one. You talked about this in terms of the intimacy, right? You're not serving drinks to the audience that is witnessing the events unfold at Daphne's Dive. But can you talk a little bit more in terms of a rehearsal room is a very different space than a theater, and a theater is a different space in tech when it's designers with tables and directors that might feel distant.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about how do you create familiarity and intimacy in that sense? Especially, yes, physical proximity is one thing, but how do you create that that sort of vibe? Can you speak to that at all?
There's the advantage in this particular cast that a bunch of us had worked together before. So we were actually coming into the space, a new piece for all of us, but with some familiarity just with each other. And so that camaraderie just kind of gets deepened. Then there's the actual mechanics and the logistics for myself of how to work behind a bar. And learning how to pour and learning how to use the tap. And our fantastic assistant stage manager, Sydney Morrison, taught me how to pour from the bottles.
Pouring from bottles and pouring from pulling a beer from a draft is a specific skill.
Very specific skill. I mean, YouTube can only teach you so much. So I had a physical source on set, and I practiced. I practiced with all my shot glasses set up, and I would pour, and I would pour, and I would pour, because it needs to feel natural. If it's Daphne's Dive, so I can't subcontract the job just yet. So learning how to do that, in addition to learning the words, and in addition to learning the blocking, was a daunting task. But I was excited actually about the prospect of it, because again, you want to lend authenticity to the character. We are, again, we're looking at people living their lives. So walking into a bar, the last thing you're gonna think about is, whether the bartender knows how to pour. Like it's just gonna happen.
Exactly. Any other? Yeah, we'll go over here. James.
Oh.
Let's say the question coming to us digitally is, Rand, do you have any interest in directing possibly in the future? Or?
Never say never. My particular skill set, I find in this moment and most moments, is really related to not purely just acting, but song. And the opportunities that I've had to teach or conduct a master class have been helping a student, helping a singer create the moment to find the acting impetus, to find that motivation. Coming from a classical vocal background, the one sort of stereotype lobbed at most opera singers that you just sort of stand there and not emote, and it's just all sound and all volume all the time. That has certainly shifted, and there is this expectation that these grandiose operatic arias and ensembles will tell the story. And I've found in some of the training that I've had, particularly in an organization called OperaWorks, literally takes classical singers who, because we're singing such old music, there's tradition. There's these are what the notes are on the page, and this is how you sing them. If there is the option for variation, it's actually these 3 options, and that's it. Don't try anything else. And you are coached and coached and coached to fit within those parameters. So a sense of infusing that with any sort of essence of who I am and who any other singer is, can kind of get drilled out of you. And OperaWorks and the Banff Center gave me opportunities to sort of switch the singer-actor title to actor-singer. And that in and of itself is an identity shift for a lot of us. And I think right now I could direct a song. Directing a work, an actual play, I'll put that on the goals list.
That's great. That's great. I was about to say maybe in the future, but
Yes.
we'll see what the future holds.
Yes.
Yes, you, sir.
Thank you.
That's a great question. Question from the audience here asking, what is your routine now that you're out of previews and the like, in terms of what do you need to do to bring the best you on stage?
Yes, and the things that you mentioned, singing in the shower and going over the script and all of those things happen. I will integrate a vocal warm-up that, again, I'm leaning on what I know as a singer. I may not be using that range of my voice, those parts of my voice, but I still need to prepare my voice. So I go back to my singing warm-ups, as I always have. And there are select points of the script that I will review. I will just simply say my lines out loud to myself. Again, it gives me that sense of like I've put on the pieces that I need, that I know that I'm gonna have to use once I'm on the stage, because the mind can play tricks on you. And I might think that I learned this line with one word that's wrong, and I say it, I wonder if it's right, I have to go back, look at it, and drill it. Drilling for me, if I can repeat it about 10 times, that kind of starts to lay the groundwork of it kind of getting in my muscle memory. And I'm getting a little nerdy, and I appreciate your indulging me, that it's, yes, it is a daily task to revisit the script in some form. Whether I physically pick it up or I'm running through lines and scenes in my head, yes, I am doing that on a daily basis. It may not necessarily be the entire play, but it's those chunks that I know kind of can give me, a little trip up, that I make sure that I hit at some point during the day. And also especially the opening of the show, the start of the show. That helps me. If I've said it before I say it on stage, it's kind of like that pump to the gas pedal. That helps me get there. And I try to get as much rest as I can, make sure that I've eaten, and staying hydrated.
Amazing. Thanks, Rayanne. Any other questions from the... Yes, Barbara.
Okay.
The question,
question.
the question from live here at Signature Theater is: did you have previous side hustles, gigs? You may have some currently, as well as many other actors and performers do. Mm-hmm. And the second part of the question was: does your child have any interest in maybe possibly going down a similar career path?
Yeah. To answer the first part, yeah, I've done a few things actually. My first job in high school was working at the bookstore at George Washington University. That was my first job, and I worked in going to school in Boston. I also did graduate school in Boston, in the Boston area, in Cambridge specifically, and so stayed on and worked in various positions. I worked in the grocery store. I worked as a parish secretary at an Episcopal church. My bread and butter as a singer was singing as a cantor and a song leader in Catholic churches all across the area. I worked as a live-in caregiver to a woman with Alzheimer's. Her daughter hired me to move into their home and care for her mom. I had no experience doing that, but again, it filled a need of a job, but the greater gift are the relationships that I formed from that time. And actually what it asked of me, to be empathetic, to be compassionate, to simply walk with somebody, as they begin to not remember what happened daily, but can remember all of the songs that she danced to, back in the 40s, and weekly outings to the local friendlies, and and yes, various and sundry temp jobs working in offices. And I worked as a cook in the rectory of my own parish, and have had the distinct honor of cooking for the bishop, not the current one, but the one previously here in the Diocese of Arlington a couple of times. Because, and this is a bit of a sideline, when I was an undergrad, towards the end of my undergrad, I became quite ill with sort of a bacterial ulcers in my throat. And I'm going to school for voice, like this is the path. And being hypersensitive, that, because it literally stopped my singing, I was having an identity crisis as to what I was going to do and who am I if I don't sing. And it was then that I thought, well, I like to cook. Maybe culinary school might be the path. And I ultimately didn't go down that path, but I found other outlets for my love of cooking in these other ways. But what that time informed for me, being ill and not being able to sing, was about recognizing what is it about my quality of life that makes the life that I'm living worthwhile. So my singular path of being a singer, it isn't all that I am. I am so many other things, and life would show me that. But at the time, I was really quite frightened at the prospect, because it completes me, being able to sing. It is the gift that I am truly humbled by having, and grateful for every opportunity that I have to use it, and certainly I hope for the audience's enjoyment. And as for the next generation, well, we shall see. The bug is there. The talent is there. Mom cannot push. Mom will not push. Mom knows what a stage mom she could be, but she keeps it in check, mostly. But I'm excited at what any path could possibly be, because it's so funny to be able to see, like, wow, see that ear that you have for music, that that insight that you have because you've watched so much theater, because being the theater kid, being the kid of a theater person, of an actor, is a unique experience. So what you've been exposed to, your average, Hamilton, Hadestown, Heather's kid fan, it doesn't necessarily have. But I am, I'm hopeful for whatever might be. But I will take a moment and pat myself on the shoulder for saying, wow, the fact that you know as much as you do about Sondheim and how moved you were at his passing, I hope that I'm doing something right, that you can appreciate the very beauty of what music and art has to give each of us.
Amazing. Thank you for that. Yeah, I think I say this to a lot of other students, and it's always reaffirming when it comes from another adult's mouth. Yes, it's great that we have performers such as yourself that are able to do what they are so skilled at, and it is a large part of who you are. Mm-hmm. And this is not to BFAs are great or whatnot, but there's a lot of different routes you can take and a lot of different skills you can pull in, whether it's side hustles for jobs in the arts.
Yes.
There's still a lot to gain from positions like that, whether it's psychologically, emotionally, the relationships you build. I think, and Paige may be able to attest to this if she was here right now, but I'm the most interested in collaborating with people that have stories like that to tell, that have experiences like that, as opposed to, 8 hours a day, I'm in the rehearsal room. That's it, which is a great place to be.
Yes, it is, but if that's living for you, that's terrific.
Yeah. That
isn't necessarily living for some of us, the rest of us.
And especially depending on pieces you're engaging with or showcasing, right?
Right.
Someone's performing at, the Met 6 nights a week or whatever, they, to me, probably don't exist in a space like Daphnes Dive in as believable a way, right? As opposed to someone with maybe a bit more diverse or well-rounded of a life.
Yes.
That might be putting it harshly.
Yes. Well, I think it's about the job that you're doing, and what it asks of you, physically and emotionally. I think I'm figuring out that I might not be a great multitasker, but I can focus on a couple of different things and make that switch emotionally. I think about the other parts that I played in some other shows around town, in which I'm a completely different character from scene to scene. Well, the prospect of that is just really fun, because I might give her another name. I might give her a whole different background. The audience isn't going to know that, but it's just fun with the idea that my castmates and I are sort of creating this world that is that much richer because we've informed it with something. Again, it's in the intention. Was I a fully scarved and in a coat until April 15th kind of singer? Yes, I was. And then life happened, and you figure out, well, if I take care of all these other things for myself, for my body, I don't have to be so fearful. I'm just going to make better choices. I'm going to hydrate. I'm going to get more rest. Those two pillars, if I start there, a whole lot of other things can manage to happen mostly well. If I'm coming from a rested place.
Great. Yes, question from Steve.
Yes. Chelsea Pace was our intimacy director.
Explain what she did for you.
Yeah, that.
Yes.
100%. That's a great question, Steve. The question from the audience is regarding the Signatures resident intimacy coordinator and choreographer Chelsea Pace, who was actually at the previous Inside Signature. which was an absolute delight. That is a very unique role. Can you talk about her involvement in the process and intimacy, coordination in regards to a show like Daphne's?
Yes, yes. Chelsea's role in terms of addressing the moments of intimacy physically within the world of Daphnes Dive began with teaching us, empowering us as artists, as actors, to establish what parameters or boundaries we were open to being touched. Because unlike in real life and friendships and family and so forth, we are creating a sense of intimacy in what is seemingly kind of an artificial environment. But we do have to, again, make it authentic. Say, I didn't know the actors that I was performing with prior to all of this. We'd have to find that place of camaraderie. We'd have to find that place of relationship. And Chelsea empowered us with the with the tools, with the vocabulary, with a set of guidelines to literally check in with each other, to say, today, this is how I'm feeling. And literally down to things like, you can touch my forehead, my shoulders. No, I'm not comfortable with your touching my thigh. And you know, every corner of the body, we're giving voice to what makes that okay to be touched. And then within the context of the play and what the stage directions indicate, we would have conversations before there was even any sense of you're going to place a hand here or you're going to hold a hand here, about what those intentions are, what is the subtext of why a moment of intimacy might occur, because the audience is going to read it in the 120 ways of whoever's sitting in the house, but it's got to convey something. So it was establishing a sense of trust between us as actors, with the vocabulary in which we could say, this is where I'm comfortable with being intimate with you in a physical way. And I found that I have continued to think about it, even off stage, that if we actually just found ways to be more comfortable with establishing and asking consent, it would, the way that it would shift our way that we communicate with each other and see each other. I am grateful to Signature for making that a part of the process of bringing this play to the stage. It's essential to honoring who we are as artists, but also our our sovereignty as beings.
Amazing. Thank you very much. We've only got a few minutes left. We've got time for a couple more questions. Yeah. We kind of hinted at this earlier at the top of the hour. You are a mother, and you play an adoptive one in Daphnes Dive. Yeah. Can you speak to that experience in terms of developing a relationship with another actor who is obviously not your biological child, but in terms of overlapping a bit in terms of some age experiences maybe, and age experiences with a child your own child who has not hit those ages yet. Yes. But what's it like creating a familial relationship with someone like that?
Well, one, is a joy to work with Jailene Carranza. She's incredible, and I am very excited for her star to rise. Truly.
Fresh out of college. She is fresh-faced and incredibly talented.
It's just like any other relationship that you create on stage. it's getting to know each other. It is being in the room. It's having the conversations. I don't know, having been a mom for 14 years, I recognize that I bring a fairly strong maternal energy, I think, in general, and a sense of being a carer in some ways. And I appreciate that that is a part of who I am, but it isn't all that I am. But it helps inform Daphne, who is an adoptive mom, doesn't even walk into this with any real sort of sense that it's going to happen. So I've leaned into the imperfection of that. One, because parenting, let's just call it what it is, just being a carer of another human being, be they young or old, is it's a grave responsibility. And Daphne having her own, her own stuff that she's working through isn't always going to make the best choices. She's going to make the choices that she makes with what she has. And I'm doing that every day. And it's hit or miss. But I like to think that, and I say this jokingly with some self-deprecation, but the chaos of offstage, of home, and the chaos of onstage, yeah, there are times that they have bled together, that's for sure. But I like to think that it informs the other, and the play is an outlet for, again, someone else's words for me to interpret, but you know, so much of it is very spot on, and I have managed to mostly, I think, try to lend that sense of Daphne's caring, even as Daphne doubts, because that's kind of my everyday. That's kind of my everyday, because I don't know what is to come. You know, I'm still raising this young soul with such intelligence. So I can't even tell you. I know, I'm humble bragging now. Such intelligence, such creativity, such energy, such goodness, this old soul depth, and my gosh, to harness all of that at the age of 14, when I recognize, man, when you hit 25, 26, when the brain is like fully sealed, you know, watch out, world, it's going to be incredible. But I've got to help protect that for, you know, for good. You know, like let's channel all of that for good. Because, gosh, the gift of having this responsibility is what I also bring to Daphne, even in the face of her going, what just happened? Because that's not that far from real life.
Amazing. One final question to wrap us up with the time we have today. It's been an interesting past few years, obviously, for a lot of reasons.
Indeed.
And theater and the arts are evolving and changing, by and large, in a positive way, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Why small and big stages are coming back, obviously, which is great.
Yeah.
Why should we keep doing this work? Whether it's shows like Daphne, whether it's big, flashy musicals, whether it's an intimate one-person show,
Mm-hmm.
Why not just like close the book on it all and be like, we've had enough theater. There's enough other things going on in the world. Like, why should we keep coming back to pieces like this, to new works, to old works? Why, or if it's easier to answer, why do you keep coming back? Why do you think it is important?
Why do I keep coming back? Well, it mostly pays my bills, mostly. But two, what are we here for? there are so many stories that we ourselves don't know yet because those voices haven't yet been given a platform. Our recognition of that, our awareness of that is promising. But now we actually have to open the door and add a seat to the table and say, tell me, what did bring you here? What brought you here to the United States? Maybe you're, fifth generation New Englander. That's still a story. What if you're on a tiny island, Sister Republic in the Caribbean, Trinidad and Tobago, in the late 60s? In the late 60s. We know what was happening in the United States in the late 60s. But what compelled you to leave your island, your idyllic island, to come here to start a new life? If it wasn't oppression, if it wasn't economic hardship, what is it deeper than that brought you here? And I'm saying this out loud going, well, Rayanne, perhaps it's because you should be telling your mother's story. And yeah, I do circle that. I do circle around that going, yeah, that's a voice that we don't often hear, which should be heard. There was an opportunity to immigrate to this country legally. That in and of itself is enough of a stick of dynamite in the conversation about the telling of stories. I do want to know more about that because as the daughter of immigrants, I actually only know so much because of what they've told me, and we know of our elders and those before us that for whatever reason, the life that they lived, there were choices made about whether they shared that or not. Now, do we have to open up all the boxes? Maybe not. But the platform in which the medium of theater allows that to be interpreted, we then recognize time and time again the universality of the experience, of the longing, of the love, of the conflict, of the struggle. Yes, it'll be influenced by socioeconomic circumstances and race and culture, but the expanse of humanity and emotion, we all have that. We all have that. And I hope that theater continues to explore that and give voice to many more voices that we haven't otherwise seen or heard.
Beautifully, beautifully put, and I'm not going to add anything else to that because it was so well put. Thank you very much, Rayanne. Can we all get a round of applause for Rayanne for joining us today?
Thank you very much. What a distinct pleasure to be with you all here today.
Amazing. Thank you, folks, for joining us digitally. And just as a reminder, next month, the first Thursday of April, that's next month, we have Ali Ewalt, who is one of the leads in She Loves Me, which is going on right to my left in the Max Theater. They're currently working on some previews. And make sure you check out Daphne's Dive, which closes on the 20th of March. Get your tickets now if you don't have them. And if you want to see it again, get those tickets again. But thank you all very much. We got to head off to our next thing, but take care, folks. Thank you very much.
Thank you.